everyone. I am Sagar Chandni, and thank you for tuning into Virtual Global Leadership Podcast. Today, we have the immense pleasure of hosting a truly inspiring figure in the world of professional development and corporate training, Rupali Gautam. With over 2 decades of rich experience, Rupali has been the beacon of knowledge and transformation for more than 25,000 professionals across the globe. Her journey has taken her through esteemed organizations such as Reliance, Tata AIG, Life Insurance, and ICICI Securities, where her contributions earned her the 2010 Process Excellence Award. Rupali is not just a leader, but a visionary. Holding certifications in employer branding and Iron Lady Leadership Essentials and recognized as a certified associate from IMPA, she reshaped the leadership landscape through a strategic coaching, notably enhancing the skills of senior leaders. Beyond her corporate achievements, Rupali has made significant strides in employee and personal branding, guiding individuals to align with organization cultures seamlessly. With over 5,000 workshops and several impactful online courses to her name, she is a celebrated master trainer, Pride of India, and a recipient of Women's Achiever Award. Rupari specializes in wide array of training areas including emotional intelligence, decision making, communication skills, and much more. Her dedication to fostering excellence and empowering others makes her an invaluable asset in the realm of corporate training and leadership development. Please join me in welcoming the remarkable Rupali Gautam to our show. Rupali, it's an honor to have you with us. How are you?
Thank you so much, Sagar, for inviting me on such a wonderful platform. It's always a pleasure to interact with you. I have been doing great. So it's a wonderful opportunity where I was invited on one of our sessions, and it's my pleasure. It's my honor to come back again and to have this wonders to share this wonderful platform with you. So thank you so much once again.
Absolutely, Rupali. So it's been like we are connecting after 7 years, as we were discussing,
Yes.
pre-podcast, as we were interacting. So what has happened? Where are we heading? What is the future of work? What is the future of employer branding? I would love to first, get hold of that advice from you.
Absolutely. So when we talk about in terms of my work has been flowing endlessly, touch wood, and I have been very lucky for that. But I wouldn't say lucky because mere luck is not going to help. There's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of passion that goes behind where I am at the moment. And when I talk about in terms of shaping the future, well, as we know, I always strongly believe in this aspect of employees are the true brand ambassadors of the organization. So here when we talk about in terms of every aspect that an employee is dealing with, irrespective of whichever stakeholder that they are interacting with, be it the internal stakeholder or an external like their clients or vendors or consultants, it's very important that how are we putting ourselves in front of them in every aspect, every interaction, every communication that we do. So hence, when we say that till the time our consumers, our clients are going to be there, till the time our organizations are going to be there is a certain way of presenting the employees which is going to be a part and parcel of how things are going to be shaped up in near future. So that's where I come in picture, where I consciously help organizations to brand their employees in a certain manner so that they are in completely sync with the organizational culture.
But Rupali, looking at, this is maybe I'm looking at the darker side of things, and you can correct me if, if
Sure.
I'm, if something needs to be corrected. But look at the way, the kind of stress and the kind of challenges, I would say humans go through.
Mm-hmm.
Let's, because they're humans first and employee
True.
after that.
True.
So wherein a major chunk of employees, they are either not motivated, they feel not recognized, they feel their whatever promotions are due, they are not feeling good in their personal life, and that is also going reflecting in their professional life, or vice versa.
True.
How to encourage them to first work and then become the brand ambassadors of the company, and help company brand. So I would love to know your thoughts there.
Absolutely, Sagar. So, when we talk about in terms of alignment of an employee with the organization, the primary step that we need to look into this aspect is firstly, me and myself, I need to be aligned with my own thoughts and my career path. Whether this is something which, is. Something that I really get motivated, whether this is something where the job that I'm doing, is it just merely a job where I'm engaged, or it's something where I'm passionate, I really love being here, this is something where I'm able to explore my creativity. So that alignment is very important, and for that particular alignment, when we talk about in terms of what is it that motivates me, so most of them, maybe monetary factor is something which motivates all of us, but we have to see beyond that. So a, whether the kind of work that I'm engaged, whether that is something that is fulfilling for me, whether that is something which I feel is truly aligned with what is it that I'm expecting to shape up my career graph, only then what happens that I'm truly motivated in terms of where I'm belonging organization. So a lot of us, what happens is, a lot of employees, they join an organization just because they have merely got a job. They work for few years and then they suddenly feel, okay, this is not my cup of tea. Or maybe they feel, the grass is greener on the other side and I want to probably take a leap of faith and move to the other organization. But this is not something which will last for a longer time. It's where I firstly need to see whether I'm able to see myself growing in the organization, whether what I want, am I able to get those opportunities, am I able to see myself growing in this company. That's where then you truly are looking into making yourself a part of being an employee for that particular organization, and converting yourself not just being an employee but being a true brand ambassador. So then that's where things get aligned, and then every aspect that I'm doing or representing that particular organization is not being forced. So it's not something where people are pushing you to do things, but it comes more naturally, and that's where we would want to enhance this ability to make the most of it.
Mm-hmm. But Rupali, what about the work culture itself? I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you remember a few months ago, I don't want to name the bank, but a video got viral where one of the managers was just shouting and was really, really, in fact, abusing their employees,
Mm.
right? I mean,
Right.
this is one example. I mean, that came out. I mean, because of social media, if you just go on YouTube and if you just
True.
write, hidden videos of what's happening in my office, you will find 10 different organizations. It's not just corporates, it could be startups, it could be SMEs.
True.
So what is the systematic change that needs to happen? Who must lead that change? Because employee, in my understanding, at an initial level, might be, I don't want to use, I mean, I'm just using this for the lack of better word, might be slightly let's say scared, or like I'll be slightly more conscious because he or she is entering the organization
True.
one at least for 6 months to 1 year, right? They will
Hmm. Hmm.
just follow the behavior unless someone
Right.
is highly conscious. Then
Hmm.
they enter into a system, in a particular system. So who is responsible, who should be responsible, and what needs to be done?
So wonderful, I would say example that you have shared here, Sagar. Let me uh, share, something that I have always seen with a lot of organizations. Usually, if you see the major chunk of the training or the alignment, what is expected is at the bottom level or mid level.
Hmm.
And the challenge, the true challenges that actually people or rather employees that they face in an organization is at the top level. And seldom do that people at the top level or the senior management would feel that I need to undergo a training. Oh, is it that something where I'm disconnected? I really wouldn't feel so. So that the moment we climb up that ladder, that thought process that people would start developing, that I kind of know in and all, this is how it should be going. And rather when there is this wonderful or principle that I would like to bring into, where we talk about the ownership, accountability, and responsibility. So every time when we talk about this aspect, blame game is something which is very easily done. So even the example that you quoted, and where people become very fierce, and they talk about in terms of putting down the, because you need to find a scapegoat eventually when the situation goes haywire. Blame game is something that everyone plays, but seldom do we understand that when I am being a part of a particular department or a team, firstly, as a leader, it's very important for me to take ownership, accountability, and responsibility. That sense needs to be driven from top to bottom and from bottom to top. It needs to be something which everyone needs to feel very strongly, do things, imbibe those principles very strongly in you. Only then you would be able to create a positive and a healthy environment around, which is a win-win situation for all of us. Usually what happens is when somewhere some people would there are certain things that maybe at a senior level I have done certain mistakes, or maybe I don't have a solution for it, but somewhere now being a senior I really can't say and go ahead and just own it up, because somewhere my ego is something which will be of bigger importance for me. That's where this disconnect happens, and then things get pushed down, and all the negative emotions get pushed down or to the bottom part or the mid management part, and the negativity keeps on cropping in. In fact, it keeps on increasing and eventually affecting the entire culture. So when we talk about this alignment, or when we are talking about in terms of creating this transparency, it needs to work from both the ways, bottom to top as well as top to bottom, so that there is a complete sync and clarity of thought that what is it that we are expecting. And definitely the OR principle, ownership, accountability, and responsibility, is not just something which is there at bottom level or mid level, but it really needs to start from the top hierarchy.
Yeah, yeah. So my next question, I'll put it in a slightly metaphorically way. Okay. Now we are using English as a language to communicate,
Hmm.
but fundamentally we are communicating between A to Z. That's it.
Mhm.
It's between A to Z that we are communicating, right? What are some of those A to Z the leadership needs to focus, as you rightly said, as they climb up the ladder, they are engaged in, their ego takes over. So the A
Hmm.
to Z of the work somewhere gets lost or
Hmm.
is not recognized. So what are some of those A to Z? Maybe you can just share a few steps that leaders can take to, bring in that culture.
Okay. So, firstly, see, as a true leader, when I talk about in terms of, that my team needs to do these things, or we expect my team to be doing, these kind of things, or for a simplest example, my team needs to be punctual. Okay. Everyone should be present in the office, let's say by 9:30. But me as a leader, I take that liberty because I have been working around the clock. That is what a excuse that, or rather an excuse that I'm giving it to myself. I can take that liberty of coming at 10:30 because I am sitting late till night, till 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock at times I'm there. So I'm working like for 12 hours. And then say that your employees are leaving at 6:30, or at times you might expect them to come on time, leave on time, or stretch back a bit. But when I say certain things, am I the one who's truly following it? This is a
Hmm.
question that we leaders need to check first. Every
Hmm.
bit that we want to get percolated, am I able to first do it by myself? Am I able to set that example to my people? Only then I can request them, not demand. Only then I can request them that let's do this. That's where they would get aligned with your vision. That's where they would be very happy to be participative in something that even their leaders are involved in. Otherwise there is a huge disconnect, and that's where the gossip starts, that okay, my senior, he's expecting me to do this, but he never does it, or she never does it. This is
Yeah.
where it creates that disconnect happens here. And this, I feel, is a gap that we need to bridge first.
So, Rupali, in your vast experience, any interesting or challenging situation, came to you from organizations? and they were seeking your intervention. And can you share how you help them, because it will really help us understand the ground at ground level, how things shaped up then.
Sure, Sagar. So there have been instances, like I said. So most of the times, if even if like
It's
the
okay if you
HRs
don't
or
take,
HR.
if it's okay if you don't take the company name or brand name. It's
No,
completely
I
fine.
wouldn't definitely.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah, of
also
course.
always keep that, privacy of my clients.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So most of the times, the HR approaches me to do a lot of training programs for the bottom, or I would say the junior level first time managers to the mid level management. Seldom do I come where, people approach me for senior levels. And this is where the major chunk, or I would say disconnect, which is there is a big gap in terms of understanding. And when we talk about in terms of, so there were been training programs here before even me imparting anything in terms of knowledge. The most of the time that I would invest is firstly to get everyone to a ground level where we are open first for learning, without having that, oh, I kind of know this all, this is something that I know. But yes, we know, but how much are we implementing consciously? Am I
Hmm.
doing it? Because unless and until I'm doing it, it will not percolate within my team. So certain challenges, I'll tell you, there was a senior HR leader who had approached me, her team, where there were certain challenges, where lot of disconnects within the team. The head would say something, the team wouldn't follow, or the team would come back and kind of complain about the senior management, saying that this is how they are behaving. Why is it that always the training is imparted to us and nothing is being told to them? So this is something which goes on, and this is something which I have experienced in a lot of organization. So my approach here when I do certain journey programs, it's not always that I would only focus on a certain level. We
Hmm.
would do it from top to bottom as well, so that the
Hmm.
buy-in happens there first. And the moment there, they are clear with what is it that where is it that we had this gap, how my thought process has got changed. Eventually when we try to build something at the bottom line, it is much easier.
Hmm.
That's where my intervention has been.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Rupali. I think it's a very, very important point. In my experience, I'll just give you a very small example. There is one forum, a community forum that is happening, not even a corporate example. And the gentleman is 60-year-old and his son is around 25. He happened to discuss his concerns with me. We had a good chat. Then I recommended that your son must participate in this forum. But I think you
Hmm.
must participate so that you can help him better.
True.
He took 3 days, and then I messaged him. He said, "No, I will not do it. I am so senior. We live." He actually mentioned. He just said that we live in a society where why should I? It is his problem. So I understand now when you say that, be it at, let's say, personal front or at professional front, the learning has to also happen, because
True.
senior management is often busy in, let's say, of course they're busy, they're doing the policy making, they are trying to gain both business, but their unlearning and relearning must happen. So I so resonate, Rupali, with
Yes.
this perspective of yours. I just wanted to know the difference between employee branding and employer branding.
Okay, so employee branding, like I said, we deal directly with employees, wherein
Okay.
we focus in terms of how an employee should be representing with the culture that an employer organization has, or rather the employer has. Employer branding is more towards like the marketing strategies, the positioning of the brand. How do we get into positioning of the entire organizational identity? That is where the employer
Mhm.
branding comes in picture, where I come in terms of my training abilities, and how to ensure that the employees are seeing their career growing in the organization, the alignment, the representation of each and every department, internal or external stakeholders. How is it that we are talking about my organization, be it my communication, appearance, behavior, my digital presence, which is very, very important.
Yeah.
Platforms like LinkedIn, where we are right now, how is it that someone is positioning him or herself in terms of the organization that they're working for? and certainly the etiquette that we need to follow when we are in this digital space. All these are certain attributes which contributes towards the employee branding.
What is the future of employer branding? Where are we heading?
So employee branding, like I said, in the initial phase of our conversation as well, this is something here to stay, because the gaps, the thought processes are going to be different, especially from generations to generation. If you see, every generation has a very different thought process. Just now you mentioned a 60-year-old person with interacting with a 25-year-old. So this generational gap is always going to be there. The different thought process is always going to be there. Same is going to be replicated in the organization as well. So here, when we talk about in terms of how my thoughts and ideologies are going to align, or rather be in harmony, to look at the brighter future of our organization, how we can contribute to each other's thoughts and ideas in terms of execution as well, that's where employee branding is also going to be a very, very critical aspect in aligning everyone.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like senior management takes a decision, they want, this is something that needs to get percolated across the organization. How do we bridge the gap when you are saying something, whether the bottom line is able to see what you're visualizing, see what you're having a vision as. So that all these are certain aspects that which we focus through employee branding.
yeah. Yeah. Rupal, you also touched upon a very important point. As someone grows in the ladder, after a point in time, be it a startup founder or a established entrepreneur or a corporate leader, the journey slightly becomes lonely, or slightly because
Hmm.
now they are just surrounded by few people, or even there are situations where they do not express themselves openly, or they are not supposed to express themselves openly. There could be so many reasons. I mean, if we go dive deep, there will be so many reasons. Now, if a leader is listening to us and they are seeking support, what kind of support system is available, how are you supporting such leaders, and what are some of the simple steps they must take so that they are connected back to the ground reality?
Okay. So one is, Sagar, that I strongly feel is that every aspect of your life, when there is a change that is happening, a basic thing that we should always revisit is our SWOT. Because when we do this SWOT analysis, it gives me a better idea of where I am at the moment, and what are my strengths and my areas of improvement that I need to focus on. Once I get that clarity, then if I say that, okay, my strengths are okay, I'm going well with it, but my areas of improvement that's where I'm feeling a bit disconnected, that's where I feel a little delusion. So where I can build up this is, now there are various aspects to look at it. Maybe because I'm there and at a certain position, I cannot really go back and approach people. So there are a lot of self learning courses which are there, or self-help books which are there, which in fact, if I have to use digital platform, something like AI has definitely influenced a lot of our lives. So this is also somewhere where people look out for opportunities. They read, they try to understand, and then they are trying to look at how I can get some clarity on these aspects. Else, what other aspect that I would also recommend here is, we can find appropriate coaches and mentors for us, because they are the true people who would actually help you to raise you from a certain level to the next level. So the challenges that you face, maybe I'm feeling stagnant, or I really don't know how I can probably move ahead, or how I can come out of a certain situation. So when you have these coaches and mentors who could guide you on a certain level, that's something which would add immensely to your thought process. So that's something that I can suggest.
So, Rupali, if you were to have a coach and a mentor for yourself, how would you,
Hmm.
how would you, what would be your process of, uh, building that relation or getting that person to know your life? The reason I'm asking this question is there are so many coaches and mentors. With due
True.
respect to all of them, how
Hmm.
does one understand that he or she would be the right person to coach or mentor me from a leadership
Absolutely,
standpoint?
Sagar. So a wonderful question. So if I have to look for, so even I go through a lot of this, processes, I would say, and before I identify, so whenever if you Google, you will get like tons of people who are there, a lot of life coaches, a lot of certified coaches, a lot of things. But then, if you ask me, I really don't. Yes, certification definitely helps you to build your credibility, but that doesn't mean that the person is someone capable of handling your situation. So
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
things which I strongly feel is it will not be like one stop. You have met someone, you need to go through this process, me interact with few of them whom you feel are credible, as well as you feel that they have good experience. And I wouldn't say that like one coach or one mentor is going to give me solutions for all my aspects that I'm looking for. That doesn't
mm,
work, because every person has a specific specialization. They have a certain thought process, they have a certain exposure. So firstly, identify that, when we talk about, again, going back to the SWOT, if you have identified that this is something which is of my priority, I really need to deal with this first. Take that, and then resonate with who would be those mentors who would be there, have those conversations, invest some time with them, get on to that one on one, and then you take your decision of who is the coach that you would, or who is the mentor that you would want to go ahead with. So that
mm,
regular research and everything is there. But again, now when we talk about, in terms of industry experts, we also can work on taking references from my networks, from people whom I'm interacting, where I know I have a network in place. I can be vocal about that, this is an aspect that I'm looking for, as a coach or a mentor. And then maybe I can look at some shared references, where which has a strong credibility, someone who has shared, which also helps me to gain a clarity, rather than just going ahead and finding out and just trying my luck. So
yeah.
this is also something which would really help us.
Absolutely. Rupali, what are some of the, your top workshops or the master classes? I know, you're engaged with various corporates, various companies, and you help them, with tailor-made workshops as well.
Yes.
But what are some of the, you know workshops, both in terms of value and in terms of, your understanding of, okay, this is where, major of the organizations need it? Because as you share with them, you also find out that, okay, this is the need. So what are some of those topics?
Sure. In fact, I would just share two of them at the moment. Uh,
Okay.
One of the workshops that I am conducting exhaustively is leadership essentials for managers. So when we
Okay.
talk about, be it like the new managers or the first time managers, or how is it that we build that strong foundation, because these are the ones who are growing up in their career. So when we feed them, or we imbibe them with the correct values, be it in terms of the behavioral aspects, in communication aspects, how is it that they can manage themselves in a better and effective manner, so that then when they grow, they are also able to handle their team. So they say, right, leaders create more leaders in the team. That is something,
Yeah.
that's a thought process that we start inculcating with these newly promoted managers, or the first time managers who are there. So this is something which I have been doing exhaustively for various corporate. And another segment that I have been also doing is, in fact, where I have received some wonderful accolades as well, wherein I have designed a program where we are focusing on customer centricity with emotional intelligence, using emotional
Wow.
intelligence.
Wow.
So here, when we talk about this particular segment, so I'm not looking at any hierarchy, be it the top management, mid management, or the bottom. Here, everyone, when we talk about customer centricity, it is my core. My customer is
Mm,
not only my end user, but also my internal stakeholders. How is it that we create a complete culture around this with emotional intelligence. So primarily we focus on the four pillars of emotional intelligence, that is self awareness, self management, social awareness, and relationship management. So when we are focusing on these four pillars, it definitely has helped my corporate clients, my I would say participants, to really have a very different approach to their stakeholders, keeping customer centricity in the mind.
So customers, as in the end, the end users, and any other stakeholder along with that.
So when I say customer, Sagar, it's my internal as well as external customer,
Exactly.
everyone in the system.
The team, and the this thing.
Yes.
No, I really,
So when
yeah. Go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, go ahead,
when I
please.
say customer, it is my internal customer, that is, my team members, my juniors, my colleagues, my subordinates, my cross functional teams, the different departments that I have to deal with, everyone is there, plus the external, which typically is catered like my end user, that is someone who's eventually been taken care of. But what about the vendors, the partners that I'm working with? What about the various maybe people that I'm dealing, the consultants that I'm dealing with, my external parties who are supporting me in and out in the business? All these are also very critical people. So how my approach is going to be there towards them? So using emotional intelligence, how we can develop this customer centric culture, is something that I have been working on.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Rupali, for sharing it once again. I know I there was an intent behind asking you once again, because I really want viewers to understand that their team are their first customers. If they are
Yes.
happy, if they're culturally, bonding well, it will definitely reflect towards the external customers. So thank you for sharing in depth about this. Well, I have a very because since you touched upon emotional intelligence, there are various stages of life, and let's say the first managers, they might have their aspirational goals. They might want
Hmm.
to get their new car, they might want to get their new house, they might want to, I don't know, get a life partner. Maybe,
Yeah.
let's say, the second set of people who could be in their 30s or 40s, now they have seen the world a bit. Now they want to
Hmm.
work towards their, in the Maslow's hierarchy, they want to work on the self actualization goal. Now they want
Actualization.
to
Yeah.
give back. Yeah. And then there are folks, let's say, in the third stage, where they are in the senior management. Now they are concerned who to give this to, who is the right person who will take this place. Everywhere the insecurities are there, the core
Hmm.
insecurity is there, but the situation is different, right?
Hmm.
So what are some of the steps we can take to address those insecurities?
Okay. So here, when we talk about insecurity, so there are two things which I could, take from your question. One was where we are talking about the various goals that people have at the various stages of life. Yeah. And then
Yes,
when we talk about these insecurities, may I try to understand what is
please.
it that we are referring to in terms of the insecurity? If you could
See,
just help me
See,
understand a
in an
bit.
yes, yes, of course. So in an organization, work is there. Work is going to come. If you are doing wonderful, if you're doing
Hmm.
it happily, wonderful. If you're
Hmm.
if you're going through that insecurity, that particular insecurity at that particular stage, it might impact the work. It might impact your own growth. But
Hmm.
the insecurities are common in whatever stage you are in. Okay. May I also add few more things here? And second is their day to day, let's say, challenges that they feel they are going through, be it some
Hmm.
fight with their family, some
Hmm.
relationship not working, because
Hmm.
in this dynamics everything is so connected. If I'm having a
Hmm.
fantastic day, which I am
Hmm.
having today right now, Rupali, having interaction with
Hmm.
you, I know the second of my day is also going to go nice, because I've built this from morning. So,
True.
I mean, I went slightly deeper because you want. I mean, I'm just sharing this. So, how do we address that aspect through emotional intelligence or through becoming aware?
Got it. So, firstly, Sagar, it's a very important aspect that professionals at any level that we need to understand is we are dealing with humans and we are not dealing with machines. So,
Yeah.
empathy is something that we really need to practice. which we most of the time it's missing. We become so mechanical. So be it at the top level, mid level, or bottom level, everyone is doing their daily task, daily activities. This is something that why you have not sent me that report, why this has got delayed, why you have not done this. So let's try to understand that when a person was performing, okay, he or she was doing well, let's say for a month or maybe for a week's time, why there has been a disconnect as a leader, or for that matter even for me as an individual, as a professional, as a colleague. Have I noticed that? And if I have noticed it, have I acknowledged it? Have I gone ahead to check if things are okay with someone's personal life? I'm not saying that we need to be intervening in someone's personal life and try to make a story out of it to become like a gossip thing. But if I'm truly looking for to work as a strong team, whichever level that we are, and suddenly if I see some person is getting disconnected, or suddenly there is a person who is becoming restless, there is a lot of anxiety, things are going a little haywire, we really need to take a step back. If you've noticed a behavioral change in someone, we really need to take a step back, and we need to think from that person's perspective, that whether things are going well with him or her. Because let's try to understand, we be it my personal life, be it my professional life, or be it my social life, I'm the same person. It's just that
Yeah,
my approach would vary. And if something is, unwell in my personal life, it is going to impact my professional life. And when we talk about these aspects, these insecurities that get developed, is maybe that, I'm not very comfortable with something which is going on maybe in my personal life. And all the time when I come back to work, people are only bothered that whether I have been able to put a checklist on all my daily tasks.
yeah,
When this
yeah,
is a kind of that approach that people come up with, it just keeps on adding to the frustration levels of individual without realizing that I'm not a robot, I'm not a machine, I have a human side to me.
yeah, yeah,
Seldom do people understand. And when you know be it any professional, who this is the primary leadership quality that anyone can exhibit, be it a bottom line or be it at a top management person. The moment you have seen that or you have noticed, acknowledge. Maybe you can have just offline conversation with this person, rather than discussing about the reports and the strategies and where the work front is going. Just to have a casual conversation of how things are at home, how's your family. Oh, so
yeah,
maybe the person will not open up in your first interaction if that is something which is being done for the first time. But if you've built that rapport over a period of time, and when people come and share with you, yeah, things are not being well, or this is something which has been happening, give them that flexibility. It's not that,
yeah,
see, everyone cannot be productive throughout their phases of their lives. No, we have our own ups and downs, we have our own falls. So if I'm not doing well in my personal life, it is going to affect in my professional life. So acknowledge that, give them that liberty. At times people just need someone to listen to them. Are we giving
yeah,
them that ear? Are we being sensitive towards them? And when this is a kind of support system that you give them, people then are more comfortable. The insecurities which we were talking about would definitely perish, eventually looking at the bigger picture. So if you have been if you have stood with me in some place where I really looked up for someone to hold me, or someone to understand me in that phase, eventually it's like a teamwork that we do for each other. So that I feel we should be developing. So very important to develop that empathy factor in my team.
yeah, yeah, Rupali. Thank you for sharing that. Sometimes I wonder this. Maybe I'm brainstorming this with you at the moment, but I wonder that in organized corporates, there is a responsible person to do a
Hmm.
particular role. There is a
Hmm.
junior developer, there is a senior developer, then there is a head developer. Even in the
Right.
HR domains, there are people executives, there are HR, let's say HR executives, there are L&D executives, L&D managers, senior L&D leaders, whatever. I'm not
Right.
referring to the hierarchy here, I'm just referring to the
Job
responsibilities.
roles. Yeah.
you know that's why, I did mention to you about the chief well-being officers program that I'm doing right now. At
Mhm.
the moment I'm pursuing knowledge. And now, after listening to you, and in the similar interactions that I have had with other leaders, sometimes I feel that, okay, because what you said, being, I mean, leaders wanting to be empathetic is one thing, but actually they are practicing is another thing. So
Yes.
I mean, I think the time has come. I'm just naming it again. I mean, because it's a chief well-being officer, or it could be someone who is responsible for humanizing workplace. Because there are people who understand this. There are people who have given their life it. Somewhere, a psychologists are doing this at one-on-one level. There are other professionals. There is an overlap of so many skills and professions. But then, that makes me think: has the time come? I'm not only referring to, let's say, a well-being officer, but chief human humanizing officer, something like that, who is humanizing the organization. So I was just
Yeah.
thinking, okay, is the data, because I'm sure, Rupali, you're sharing this with your experience, and then there will be so much of data that will share this. So I was just thinking, what needs to be done? Should we hold someone accountable, rather have someone who can ensure that these things are integrated in the system? What are your thoughts? Like, what do you think?
So Sagar, I always believe this, that ownership, accountability, responsibility. I really can't say that he being my boss, he needs to do this.
Yeah,
I am like
yeah,
this. I am not really accountable for this, or I'm not owning this. At every level, we are having our own ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Why
yeah,
is it that we are getting into this blame game? Why is it
yeah.
that we are pointing fingers that this is your job, this is your job, this is your job?
So, Rupali, there should be someone, no, to track that you are doing the blame game systematically,
Track
isn't
yourself.
it?
I would suggest that when we talk about this, so yeah, maybe like if in terms of we have various tools, in fact, be it a RASI matrix, or when we talk about in terms of doing these checkbox activities. Okay, these are the list of tasks which we are supposed to do it in terms of my work front. So ye karna hai. These are the things that we have to do it. Yeah, we hold someone accountable, we hold someone who is going to be kept informed, or so on and so forth. However, when we talk about in terms of humanity, it's not somewhere where we can put across like he should be responsible, or I should be doing only this. No, when we talk about on these grounds, it's very important for me to first practice myself, so that I
Yeah,
am able to see the change in the other person. If you are
yeah,
not changing and you're expecting the change to happen, how will it work?
yeah, yeah. No, thank you, Rupali, for sharing that perspective. But if someone is struggling with self-image,
Mm-hmm.
or self-esteem, be it at various levels, maybe at a first-time manager level, it is evident the person
Hmm.
can share, or there is a room for, let's say, improvement. Of course, there is a room for improvement even at the senior level. But
Right.
in my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of senior level ego comes from somewhere self-image, or self-esteem not being managed correctly, either high intensity or low intensity. That's where the decision to unlearn or relearn happens. Okay.
Hmm.
So in your experience, what is the, like, how can one keep a track on it and build on that?
So here, Sagar, irrespective of the hierarchy, again, I would just say that when you are uh, there in a situation, okay,
Hmm.
uh, there are always two things that we get into. Let's say
Hmm.
certain things are not favoring me, the way things are happening. Maybe I expect it to be in a certain way, but it is not happening. Either you react or you respond. Now,
Hmm.
reaction is something which comes very instantly. Without, there are triggers which are there, which just pushes me, and the reaction starts happening. Eventually, it's affecting everyone who comes across in this. particular scenario. Though
Yeah.
maybe at a later stage you might feel, okay, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have spoken about this, I shouldn't have behaved the way I was. But here, if you're more, I would say, self aware. So when we talk about in terms of self esteem, so things are related. My self image
Mhm.
is related with my self esteem. Eventually it will be related to my confidence levels as well. So when we
Mhm.
talk about self image, if I am someone, I'm not saying that we have to be perfect in all the scenarios. The way I am. We
Mhm.
cannot be perfect. Whom are we comparing ourselves with, firstly? So,
Mhm.
A, yes, we need to accept. Self acceptance is very, very important. And when you
Mhm.
accept yourself, you look at the brighter sides. I'm not talking about, we do have our own set of weaknesses, but what would happen is that I'm only looking at my weaknesses and ignoring my strengths which I have, my capabilities which are there. Somewhere
Yeah.
this is going to affect my self esteem, which is going to be very, very low, eventually affecting my self confidence. My confidence levels will be going for a toss. So every
Mhm.
time, even if I have to put across my views or my suggestions, I would not take that initiatives. Rather, I would just keep my views to myself. Rather, whatever people are just saying, I would just follow it without even saying, even if it's against my thought process, I would just go ahead with the flow. However, when we
Sure.
talk about someone who has a positive self image, would definitely have a higher self esteem. Now, there is nothing wrong in having a higher self esteem. There's a difference between having an ego and a self esteem. Self
Yeah.
esteem is where I'm first valuing myself, I respect myself. That's where, because when you value yourself, when you respect yourself, people would do that. But if I'm someone who's pushing myself down, people will push you further down. It's very
Yeah.
important, firstly, to value, respect yourself so that people would do it. However, there are times where we really need to go back and check whether things are really when I'm talking about, again, my approaches, is it my response, which is a well calculated, well thought approach that I'm putting across, or is it a reaction? Because reaction is typically an outcome which, when I have my egos in place and when I see that things are not happening as per my whims and fantasies, that's where my reactions would keep on coming, and it would flow very often. So here I would say that we really need to check ourselves, that whether I'm responding or whether I'm reacting. So my responses will really help me to be aligned with my emotions, be having a sense of calm and composed approach in all aspects that I'm dealing with. That gives me a better approach to deal with situations, to deal with my people, and that I think largely everyone would appreciate.
Absolutely. Rupali, behavioral skills play a very important role in professional success. So how do you approach teaching these skills, and why it is so important?
So, Sagar, behavioral skills, yes, there are a lot of aspects that we talk about in terms of behavior. So, be it change that we go through, or be it even the ownership, accountability, responsibility that we were talking some time back. Or any situation that, emotional intelligence, which we look at, this is also a part of my behavior. So, there are various, I would say, aspects that we deal at various stages of our lives. Here, when we are dealing in let's say the professional attribute, one of the basic thing, in fact, a lot of sessions now, also now, that I have been doing on a very, very important behavioral attribute is ownership, accountability, responsibility. And somewhere this has come. In fact, yesterday also I was discussing with one of an HR leader who was sharing that, Rupali, we really want to do this program on ownership, accountability, responsibility. And I was like, what has happened suddenly, because this program is selling like a hot cake. Why suddenly there is a huge demand there, where people are asking for it? That's where she expressed that, Rupali, there is a huge disconnect that has happened. The younger generations who are there, they feel, okay, this is something that I was expected to do, ye mera ho gaya, I'm done with it. Now this is your responsibility. I'm done with what I was being expected to do. You do it now. I am not going to
Hmm.
look forward, or I'm not really looking to work as a team. This is not somewhere where, the sense of belonging is still there, or my accountability is still there. So there, that's where I feel, there is a huge disconnect that is happening from generations now, which are, coming forward in the corporate now. And suddenly there is a huge demand for working on these behavioral aspects, where people are getting aligned and people are taking ownership, accountability, responsibility for the work that we are doing, for the projects that we are working upon. It should not be that, okay, I whatever I've been asked, I have been fulfilled, but because of that person in the team, we have failed on this project. If we have
Hmm.
failed, that means I have also somewhere not been able to contribute. If
Hmm.
we succeed as a team, but when we fail as a team.
Yes, yes.
So every
So
individual should be using this principle.
absolutely, absolutely, Rupari. In this wonderful conversation which we are having, which is purely organic, have I missed on something? Feel free to share your thoughts there.
When you say missed on something, in the sense what? I mean, like,
Anything,
we though
anything came to your mind? Anything came to your mind? Oh, I wanted to share this. So please feel free to express that.
No, I think it has been a wonderful discussion, Sagar. Though we might have looked upon, in the initial phase of our conversation, that we had an agenda to deal with, but I think that agenda really does not come in picture now, because it's not something that we were talking about sticking to the agenda. It's been a wonderful conversation that we had, and I'm sure that through our conversation we are able to give insights to our audience, to our listeners, and create some value to their lives, which would really make a significant difference. I think that is what we both would strive for, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, you touched upon a very important point because a lot of startups and SMEs are now, personally, I do not believe in Gen X, Gen Z, millennials because we live in a. I mean, this is my perspective. We live in a kind of a society where, the information is there, and I think behavior plays a very important role. I have seen some fantastic, just age. I'm just sharing their age, maybe people in their 50s and their 60s also, kind of learning and the enthusiasm they have for even in corporates I've seen is unmatchable. And of course, when you see Shark Tanks, when you see these
Yes.
folks coming up and and solving global problems, right? Now of
Yes.
course, there are exceptions, but then how does an organization, or maybe startup founders or leaders, what is their responsibility in their initial stages, to ensure that of course their team is being heard, there is a lot of the cohesion is there within the team, the work happens, because at that stage for 1 2 years they need the same team to stick together, not only for 1 2 years, maybe 5 years. So what are some of the
Even later.
suggestions here? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that, Sagar, I would say that, startup culture is something which gives us a lot of transparency. There is no rigid hierarchy that we need to follow. Yes, there is somewhere where we talk about seniority, but if I have an idea, or if I feel that, hey, Sagar, this is something that is there, and I would like to contribute, can we work around this way? So the approach that I would get is, okay, let's try. That is, the best part, that we get that flexibility, that creativity. My skills, which I can explore it to my fullest, is something that we would look at, in getting organizations who has this flexible culture. However, when we talk about, a very standard culture that, most of the corporates have, somewhere, they feel that this is something that has been missed out. At times, people would share, but they would only share if I've been asked for it. Otherwise, we are so
Yeah.
busy in terms of, executing our regular tasks, that seldom do people would come forward and would share that, this is something which I would want to do. Things are changing. from I would say being a monotonous or a rigid culture. Things are changing, people are accepting more flexibility. We in fact do a lot of innovation and creativity programs as well, wherein we are trying to instill this kind of aspect in our professionals, so that somewhere, rather than otherwise, this is also a part of culture that we had seen, that because I want to explore my creative side, my ability, that I want to do something different, and I am somewhere restricted because of my current job role, or maybe I don't get that liberty to explore this side. People leave and they want to join startups, or organizations which are extremely flexible in terms of doing things. But I say, slowly and steadily, things are changing, people are moving, and this, I think, is the best platform where people could work upon and give them that opportunity, so that it's a win-win created for all of us, or everywhere in the organization. That's something that I would share.
Thank you, Rupali. Thank you for uh, giving your valuable time and making this conversation. As I mentioned earlier, right? This will be the best podcast of this year, and I think we just spoke with the art. You shared ground realities. You shared some of the top points, especially empathy in its right context is so important, and
Yes.
training for leaders first. I think it's also very important. I think these are some of the things, if the viewers that are watching, the leaders that are watching, I think please leverage these insights. One final question, Rupali, if viewers would like to connect with you, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Firstly, Sagar, thank you so much. Again, when you are saying thank you, I feel privileged. Like I have already expressed, it's my honor, it's my privilege to be a part of, your platform, to share these insights, to add value to people's life through your platform. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Well, I can always be reached out. I'm available on LinkedIn, a platform where I'm there at the moment. We can I can be reached out. You can reach out on my profile. I can always be available. You can DM me for any requirements. I'll be happy to help.
Thank you, Rupali. Thank you, viewers, for joining us. And I just wanted to share one thing more, Rupali. I think I wanted to touch this, but I will touch in the next podcast, so we have something more to discuss. Uh,
Sure.
is that one thing that I've noticed in your journey, is that because I've seen your journey when you started off. So one thing is that you've always been someone who wants to create fulfilling experiences for yourself, and of course for the stakeholders that you work with, right? And I
Right.
have seen that a lot of be it startup founders or corporate leaders, fulfillment is what they are seeking. So I would want to touch this in the next podcast with
Sure.
you, to talk about how to create fulfilling experiences, because you know that's what we strive for, basically. So I would love to discuss that.
Sure. Absolutely. Looking forward to it,
Yeah,
Sagar.
yeah. Okay, all the viewers, thank you very much for joining us, and stay tuned. We come back for yet another podcast on Monday, that is 26th February 2026.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.